Hey, what's going on? Welcome to another 4-part harmony tutorial video. Today we are looking at the application of secondary substitutes within a chord progression. We're going to be dealing with the basic chord progression 1, 4, 5, 1, and we're going to look at how we can spice it up by adding our secondary substitutes. If you enjoy our content, please do consider subscribing, and let's just get straight into it. Okay, so in our previous video, we looked at secondary chords and the basic rules needed to apply them as substitutes for primary triads. Today, we are now looking at our application of those secondary chords or substitutions in the context of a chord progression. So we already know that chord 6 is a substitute for chord 1, and chord 2 is a substitute for chord 4. So in the basic primary triad progression 1, 4, 5, and 1, we can apply these secondary chords or secondary substitutions into that progression, which I'll show you very soon in Sibelius. And so it could look something similar to 1 followed by chord 6, followed by chord 4, followed by its secondary substitution of chord 2, and then finish it off with 5 to 1. Alternatively, you can find chord 1 completely removed, and you end up just with the substitute itself, and you could do the same thing with chord 4, completely remove that and replace it with its substitute, and then finish it off with 5 and 1. And there we get quite a classic progression of 6, 2, 5, 1, often preceded with chord 3, 3, 6, 2, 5, 1. That's quite a classic jazz progression. But for now, we're going to just be dealing with the classic progression of 1, 4, 5, 1, and the application of the secondary substitutes within that progression. Okay, so what I've done is I've set up that basic 1, 4, 5, 1 progression in 4-part harmony with no secondary substitutes. We're in the key of F major and the time signature is 3, 4 in this case. And what I've done is I've applied sort of basic rules, just mostly doubling roots and making sure that I have applied consistent voice leading practices. So our tenor voice parts are moving quite nice and steadily, just up by step over there and down again and sort of repeated over there. Same thing with alto, and our soprano is also moving quite steadily. Of course, if you were harmonizing a melody that was a bit more extravagant, you would have to change things around, but for now it's just nice and simple and steady. And our bass line, the same thing. We are naturally leaping up to chord 4, just up a step to chord 5, and then naturally having to leap down a fifth to chord 1. So let's have a listen to this, and then we'll move on to the example with secondary substitutes. Okay, so I've gone ahead and set up this example now with chords 6 and 2. We can still see our basic progression of chords 1, 4, 5, 1, but this time we followed the rules with secondary substitution, and we are now following our primary triads with their respective secondary substitutes. So chord 1 is followed by chord 6, which then goes to chord 4, which is then followed by chord 2. But in this case, I've written that as an inversion to keep my bass line steady. And then the progression is finished off with chord 5 to 1. Now, a little bit of extra info. You could actually substitute chord 1 over here at the end with chord 6. And that would often imply that we're actually going to continue within the music. But for this example here, I've written it in such a way that it would be found at the end of a work. So we're ending with a nice resolution to chord 1. For chord 6, I have doubled my root, which is the D in the tenor. And for chord 2 in first inversion, I followed the rule of doubling the third, which in this case is the 2 Bs. The B in the bass because we're in first inversion, and then the B in the alto to double that third. We're still in the key of F major, so let's have a listen to this, and we'll then listen back to chord 1, 4, 5, 1 and compare the two sounds. Okay, let's go back to our previous example, 1, 4, 5, 1, and have a listen to that. If we compare the two, we can already hear that the 1, 4, 5, 1 progression is very classic in nature, but it is quite a standard affair. So let's listen one more time to the example with secondary substitutions. And with the inclusion of the secondary substitutions 6 and 2, we really open up this progression a bit more. It also allows a bit more movement amongst the voice parts, which is really cool, and just generally creates a more diverse sound. So this has just been a basic example of what you can do to follow the basic chord progression 1, 4, 5, 1 by including secondary substitutions. Of course, we could have also replaced chord 1 entirely with 6 and 4 with 2, and then we would have just been left with a progression of 6, 2, 5, 1. Thanks for watching, everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider dropping a like and maybe hitting that subscribe button. If you didn't, a dislike, no problem at all. I hope you have a good day, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye.